Yo guys, what is good? It's your boy VGOK here, and I hope you're all doing amazing and are trading safely in the markets. I'm back with another video for you all today, and the topic of today's video is something I'm asked quite a lot about actually by you guys in the comments and the DMs. Today we're going to be discussing when it is the best time of day to actually trade, and what Forex market sections to actively be trading in, depending on the pairs that you're concentrating on. I'm also going to be touching on my typical trading routine and certain times of the day that I actually concentrate on trading. So the first thing that we need to look at is the actual times of each of the Forex market sessions. Now here what we can see is at what time each of the sessions starts and finishes and what times they overlap, and I'm going to be putting a picture right here on the right hand side for you guys so you can see that exactly yourselves right here. Now please note that the times here are in UK time, which is Greenwich Mean Time in GMT, but I've also written out for the Eastern Standard Times on the right hand side just over here for you guys as well. One thing to remember is whenever you guys are looking at these session times, please remember to translate them into whatever time zone that you are in so you can relate the sessions to your trading plan. So we have the London session opening at 8 a.m. and then closing off at 5 p.m. in Greenwich Mean Time, and in Eastern Standard Time that is starting at 3 a.m. and then ending at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We then have the New York session, which commences at 1 p.m. in British time and finishes at 10 p.m., which is also the daily close. For the daily candles, they'll close at 10 p.m. And in Eastern Standard Time, the New York session starts at 8 a.m. and closes at 5 p.m. Then we have the Sydney session starting at 10 p.m. in British time, Greenwich Mean Time, and ending at 7 a.m. the following day. And in Eastern Standard Time, that is the Sydney session starting at 5 p.m. and then ending at 2 a.m. And then finally, we have the Tokyo session starting at midnight, so 12 a.m. and then ending at 9 a.m. British time. In Eastern Standard Time, it's starting at 7 p.m. and ending at 4 a.m. And also one thing that I've included at the bottom here is the New York Stock Exchange or the equity markets opening time, which is at 2:30 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time. Now I'm going to be going into a bit more detail on this in just a minute, but if you've definitely seen some of my previous videos, my previous case study videos, especially on US 30, you know I've been talking about this before in a lot of detail and a lot of times before. Seeing that I do trade US 30 a fair amount of times, this 2:30 p.m. open time for the equity markets is very important in my personal trading plan. Now, one thing that we must understand is that the largest market participants, so the people that are moving the market the most, are the banks and the hedge funds. They are basically the market makers in the FX market. And each of the sessions is basically the active trading hours for that country's banks or hedge funds. This is why we're going to naturally be seeing currency pairs like the Great British Pound, the Euro, and the Swiss franc being more volatile, seeing more of those movements within London session. And we'll be seeing, currency pairs like the US dollar and the Canadian dollar moving more during the New York session, and then pairs such as the Aussie dollar, the New Zealand dollar, and the Japanese yen moving more within, the Sydney and Tokyo session. And, it's common for the Sydney and Tokyo session to be joined together and just to be known as the Asian session. Now, guys, please understand that this is just sort of a rough guide of when it is more probable to see these specific currencies move. So, I'm not saying that the pound is definitely only going to be moving within London session. Sometimes we do see pound movements during New York session or even during Sydney and Tokyo session at some point. Sometimes, I'm just saying that this is just a rough guide where you're going to be seeing the majority of the currencies movements within these sessions. Personally, because I'm based in the UK, I normally trade during London and New York session as it falls within my sort of normal working day. This is why I personally concentrate on trading pairs such as GBP USD, GBP JPY, Euro USD, and obviously US 30 within London and New York session. Also, another point to consider is that, remember, as traders, we actually favor times of volatility because that's when we are seeing more movements happening. And our job as a trader is to look to capitalize off of these movements. We're looking to make money off of the movements within the markets. So ask yourself, when are the most volatile times to trade? Now, looking back at that image which we saw earlier of the different market sessions, we can see that some of the market sessions actually overlap. And going back to the point of when the largest market participants' trading hours are within the different sessions for the specific country, in the session overlaps, each session is basically showing you when the large market participants, the banks or the hedge funds, are trading. So within the overlaps, you have two different countries' banks trading at the same time, which is why we see that these times are the most volatile. So as you can see, the main overlap that we like to look at, that I personally like to look at, is the London and New York overlap is from 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. and the Sydney and Tokyo overlap is from 12 a.m., so basically midnight, to 7 a.m., which is basically the most of the session overlaps with each other, which is why it's generalized as the Asian session. So now we know about when to trade in the Forex markets and which sessions to really concentrate on, but it can be difficult to actually see these times when you're on your trading view and when you're analyzing the charts. Now, if you've seen any of my case study videos, which I've posted before, you guys are going to know that I've actually added a session indicator to my trading view. And I've got it right here for you guys. So this is my session indicator right here. And you can see I've split it up into the blue and the red mainly, and just the bit in between I've just put as a different color as yellow. Now, the blue part of the indicator indicates the London session, as you can see here. The red indicates the New York session. And also, if you take a closer look at the indicator, I've put some shaded regions just in between as well. Now, the shaded regions are the actual opening times of the actual London and New York session. So at 8 a.m. British time, I am in GMT. So 8 a.m. British time, from 8 till 8:30, I've just put this little dark shaded region within the blue section, which indicates the actual London open. And for New York session, we know it opens at 1 p.m. now, which I've done from 12 o'clock to 1 p.m., which will indicate the New York open time for us. And I've also added a shaded region to the 2:30 p.m. time, as that's when the US equity markets open. And if you've seen, obviously, my case study videos beforehand, you know I like to trade US 30 a fair bit. Now remember that US 30 is a stock index, and it's made up of the 30 top performing stocks in the New York Stock Exchange. And that's why at 2:30 p.m. we see so much volatility for it, because at 2:30, remember, the New York Stock Exchange, the equity markets, that's the time that they open. Now, you're probably asking, why has Vish started his New York session at 12 o'clock over here instead of that 1 p.m.? Now, it's the same reason why I've started the blue section at 7 a.m. I like to look at my charts and analyze an hour before, which is why I've got my London session starting at 7 a.m. on the indicator and the New York session at 12 p.m. Now, if you would like to have the same indicator on your own charts, what you're going to have to do is paste the indicator code, which can be found in my main Telegram chat, and I'm going to leave the link for my Telegram in the description below. So you're going to go into the main Telegram chat, you're going to scroll up to a message which was sent fairly early on. And this was the message that was sent. You're going to paste this indicator code right here into the Pine Editor section of your trading view, which can be found right here. So you're going to click Pine Editor at the bottom. You're going to maximize the window, and you're going to see some sort of written out code that's going to be already there. So you're going to have to delete all of that, and the code from before, you want to be pasting it all in, and it should pop up like that. What you're going to do then is click Save. You're going to save it with whatever name you want, and then you want to click Add to Chart, and it will add it to your chart simply just like that. So just touching a bit on my personal trading routine and the actual sessions that I trade in. Now, like I said before, being based in the UK, for me, it's kind of convenient to trade within London and New York session, because the hours that they fall into basically my mornings and the middle of the day for me. And in my trading plan within these times, I'll look to take my standard amount of risk per trade. So for me personally, sometimes it's 2% per trade, sometimes it's 3% risk per trade. Now, I don't usually like to trade outside of the London or New York session, but if I do find myself, finding some sort of setups outside of the London and New York session, I will allocate a smaller risk per trade because it's going against what's in my trading plan. So a smaller risk per trade would be something like 0.5% per trade risk, or a 1% risk per trade. Other things I also like to look out for are certain news events. So news events are mainly going to be where your main fundamental analysis comes into. So for example, what we've got is NFP, so which is non-farm payroll. Now, non-farm payroll, it's released on the first Friday of each month at 1:30 p.m. That's in GMT, and this is all to do with the release of the US unemployment rates. And the other news event that I like to look at is the FOMC, which stands for the Federal Open Market Committee, which is basically their sort of monetary committee for the US. And they basically released the federal funds rate, which is all to do with the US interest rates. Now, when you are looking at anything on Forex Factory, which is where I like to look at my news events, I also like to look at it on investing.com. But just going over to Forex Factory right now, and this is last week's news releases. As you can see, there's a lot of orange folders, which mean medium impact, and red folders mean high impact news. As you can see, there's a lot of sort of news events coming out. Now, for me, the main sort of ones that I like to look at are obviously the red folders, because they're going to be more high impact. But out of the red folders, I actually prefer to really concentrate on trading and finding my setups around the within, it's not just the US dollar, but any countries, any currencies, unemployment rate releases or interest rate releases. And the unemployment rates are always going to be, called the unemployment rates, but sometimes the interest rate releases, as you can see with the US dollar, it was called the federal funds rate right here. Some currencies, some countries will call it their cash rate, the interbank rate. There's a lot of different names for the interest rate, but it's essentially, you just have to remember, it's just the release of the country's interest rates per month. Also, with me primarily being an intraday trader, I typically don't really like to hold my trades overnight, and I've definitely said this before. So, if I have any trades open, I'll check how the progress is doing, what position they're sort of floating at, at the daily close. And like I stated earlier, the daily close is at 10 p.m. British time, so 10 p.m. GMT. At this sort of time, I want to be looking to either close some sort of partials of that trade out to secure some profits, and chances are, if it's on a Friday, end of the week, I want to bank some profits before the next trading week. Chances are I'll look to bank some sort of partial profits before the markets close for the weekend. Or if I'm happy with the profits, if it's sitting at a really good risk to reward, or if I need to bank profits for that week, I'll close the full trade out. And the last scenario, if the price is still within 10 to 15 pips of my entry, I'll actually consider either moving the stop loss to the entry, so making the trade risk free, or I'll be just looking to break it even if it's close to the entry, because at 10 p.m. spreads at this time can go a bit wild, because it's the start of a new daily candle usually, or the end of the Friday candle. And if you're not careful at this sort of time, and if price is still floating around your break-even point, or if it's in a bit of loss near to your stop loss, it can stop your position out, because the spreads can move a fair bit at this time. So there we have my video on the best times to trade in the Forex market. We discussed the different market sessions, and I also touched on my personal trading routine. I hope you guys have taken a lot of value from this video and really understood how I like to approach the markets and how I like to implement, price and time relationship into my trading plan. If you found value from this video and you learned something, then please do like, share and subscribe, and drop in the comments below anything that you'd like to see in future videos. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next video for more of that trading sauce.